At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
Gena Rowlands is Gloria. She's tough, but she sides with the little guy.
I don't want to die. What do I do with you? You know, you're not my family or anything. You're just a neighbor's kid, right?
Gloria, you know, we're not interested in you. All we want is the book and the kid.
What you gonna do? Shoot a 6-year-old kid on the street?
For Gloria, the danger is always getting closer. And getting closer is always the danger.
Tony? Gloria. How are you? Can you help me?
Gloria, trust me. Maybe we can do something.
Trust you? Hey, Tony, I know you.
Where is the boy?
I want to go home.
Hey, don't be stupid. You got no home. You got me.
I understand. You are a woman. He is a little boy. You fall in love. Every woman is a mother. You love him.
I love Phil.
Do you love me?
How could I resist you? Hey, I don't like this kid.
We need the boy.
I'm gonna get up and walk out of here now. If you want to stop me, you can.
Like Cagney and Bogey and all those great tough guys. Now there is Gloria, a chick off the old block.
Come on. Come on. Oh, I'd love it. Come on. Don't hang back. I'd love it. I got a 6-year-old kid over there that had his whole family murdered by you punks. Go ahead, Trent. Okay? You let a woman beat you, huh? You little tiny nothing.
Gena Rowlands
You punk!
is Gloria. She's trying to beat the mob at their own game.
Welcome to the Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me once again is Mr. Andrew Rausch.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Also back in the booth is Ms. Judith Mayne.
Hi, Mike. It's good to see you again. And Andy, it's nice to meet you.
On this episode, we are looking at the 1980 film Gloria, written and directed by John Cassavetes. It's the story of a young boy whose family is killed by the mob and their tough neighbor Gloria, who becomes his reluctant guardian. The gangsters are after a book, which they called the Bible, and I honestly thought it was a Bible for a long time while I was watching this movie. Yeah, I did some Cassavetes films over the last few years, usually on other people's shows, talked about Opening Night on one show and Woman Under the Influence on another. I really wanted to talk about more Cassavetes, and I remember this movie from when I was a kid. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk with y'all about this one. Andrew, when was the first time that you saw Gloria, and what did you think?
I'd say the first time I saw it was, 15, 20 years ago. And I've got to be honest, this is one of those things, like I love gangster movies, and I love the idea of Cassavetes. And so this is a lot like The Killing of a Chinese Bookie for me. On paper, I love it. But sometimes it just doesn't seem like it meshes together in a way that I find entertaining. It's more artistic than it is entertaining in a way for me. To be honest, this was only the second time I actually watched the whole movie. And for the longest time, I thought it was because of its pace, which is slow. But it's actually, for me, the little boy, he grates on me.
And Judith, how about yourself?
I'm not sure when the first time was I saw it. It was with my spouse, who is a huge Cassavetes and especially Gena Rowlands fan. And then when she passed away, which hasn't been that long ago, in honor of her, we decided to watch Gloria again. And I have to say, I adore this film, and I am in love with Gena Rowlands. To me, she is just the most astonishing presence on camera. And I know that this is a collaboration, and they made fabulous collaborations together. But to me, I know it's a John Cassavetes film, but it's also a Gena Rowlands film. And I find every aspect of it just really engaging and really wonderful. So I think this is a great film. And you know what I think it is? A great woman's film.
She's amazing in this film. I think this is her best performance that I've ever seen. I think she's amazing in this movie.
She really is. The woman has a presence. And we talk about people being photogenic. As soon as the camera looks at her, she is just off and running. She has this aura that just draws you in so strongly. I think she's phenomenal.
Yeah. So like I said, I used to see previews, commercials for this. I might even remember Siskel and Ebert talking about this on At the Movies so many years ago.
Gene starts out with John Cassavetes' new picture, Gloria.
One of the more interesting filmmakers working in America today is John Cassavetes, whose films look improvisational. Scenes run on, the actors pause and sometimes fumble. Cassavetes' movies have a gritty, real-life quality to them. Gena Rowlands is absolutely convincing every time she handles a gun in this picture. To my mind, though, the film is less successful in its portrayal of the relationship between Rowlands and that little boy. A lot of the scenes between them seem too cute and forced. But when Rowlands is tough, Gloria works. So, mixed feelings about Gloria. More good ones than bad ones. It's an enjoyable offbeat chase picture. I like the character of Gloria very much. It's that little brat I can't stand.
He is a little bit much to take, isn't he? Especially when he delivers that dialogue as if daring anyone to change one word once he's memorized it.
Yeah.
Have a little bit of trouble sometimes with anyone under 12 in the movie.
Me too.
Something that I noticed, I suppose you noticed this too, this is the fourth time this story has been told in a movie, and the second time this year. This plot is Little Miss Marker, the Damon Runyon story. The gangster gets custody of the kid, hates the kid, then gets to like the kid.
Right.
Usually it's a guy, this time it's a girl. Maybe what Cassavetes was doing was looking for a little more discipline in terms of a framework. He's famous as a director for letting actors really go with their material and emote and let it all out and so forth. And sometimes, at the end of his pictures, you've had 2 hours of talking and acting, you don't know what it was about. This time, with that Little Miss Marker framework, he gives it a plot, which is kind of a discipline.
But this was a first-time watch for me. And I was really excited. Like you, Andrew, I had seen Killing of a Chinese Bookie, and I was just like, it didn't really connect with me. I don't know. It's the filmmaking style of Cassavetes. And it's so odd, to finally sit down and read a lot more about him. They always talk about the whole style of just improvisation. And when you look at the script of this, every word is there. I mean, there is obviously some improv going on, and probably more in the style of the performance rather than the words themselves. So I was thinking, oh, yeah, this is all improv. But then I went back and read the script and I was like, oh, no, this is all here. This is wild. And it is oddly the most commercial of his films. I mean, actually coming out from Columbia Pictures. Originally, this was supposed to be Ricky Schroeder, and who was it? Barbara Streisand was approached at one point. And so it was just supposed to be kind of like a follow-up to The Champ, which was odd. Like after Ricky Schroeder took the world by storm with The Champ, he was supposed to be in this one with a aging gangster mall and him as this, lost little boy type of thing. And like you, Andrew, the little boy in this, Juan Adames, is just, man, oh man, the voice, everything. And I know he probably is acting like a kid, but my God, get this kid away from me. I could not stand him through this entire film.
I think for me, it's the cadence of the way that he speaks. I realize he's a little kid that's not a real actor. And so that's where part of it comes from. But also, I feel like Cassavetes sometimes puts sentences in his mouth that don't seem like a 7-year-old or a 6-year-old to me, which isn't necessarily, terrible. It's just, but to me, it's the way he talks. I can't say that I don't like this movie. I admire this movie. It just doesn't entertain me as much as I would like it to, which sounds kind of dopey, and I hate to admit that, but I also try to be transparent. And what are you going to do?
I think the kid is fabulous, too. But he got a Razzie Award when this film came out. People just shredded him, and he was never in another film, ever. He, left acting forever. I do love I'm a man. I'm the man. I'm the man. The way he does that, this combination of childhood bravado, trying to stand in for his obvious insecurity, knowing that he ain't the man, but really trying to pretend that he is. He's so good at that.
When he has a toughness and that was the reason Cassavetes picked him, was because he does have a toughness that doesn't necessarily equate to great acting, but the toughness does shine through.
Sure does.
I read a really interesting take that was comparing the relationship between Phil, is the little kid's character's name, Phil and Gloria. And Phil is also a strange name for a kid. But anyway, Phil's have to come from somewhere. But it feels like such an adult name, Phil and Gloria being maybe a comparative relationship between Gena and John, especially this little tough guy and the whole I'm the man thing. And I don't know if Cassavetes was that self-aware, like I'm this little shrimp who thinks he's a lot tougher than he is. It reminds me a lot of his character from The Dirty Dozen, that little dog that just keeps barking at the big dogs kind of thing. That actually hit home for me when I was watching this again, just going, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see him being a little John Cassavetes. And I like the way that this movie begins, that we start with the shots of New York. Actually, before that, the credits are interesting too. Just the way that we're using the painting. The Bill Conti score at the beginning is very different from what it is the rest of the time. There's a little bit of Spanish guitar in parts of this, and then other parts it becomes much more of that big Bill Conti score. You can really hear that through a lot of the action scenes. But starting this off with following this woman who we don't know, she is not Gena Rowlands. She ends up being the mother of Phil. And following her through her journey of coming home with the groceries, the bag falling apart, the really shitty apartment building that they're in. And I guess this was shot down in South Bronx. And we talked a lot about how South Bronx was just this war zone at the time. We talked about that on the Wolfen episode, with just how it feels like it's like an alien landscape, like it's the remains of a dystopian past that people are walking through. But yet here's this nuclear family, well, bigger than nuclear family, this family living amongst them. And surprisingly, Buck Henry as the dad was a real shock to me, because it just felt like he stuck out like a sore thumb amongst these Latino people.
The way that it's set up initially is really interesting, and it works really well, because when Gloria is introduced, it's like, who's this? Okay, we know it's the neighbor down the hall, but what the heck? Why is she here? And she seems like very much an intruder into this space, although gradually the space organizes itself pretty much completely around her. She's been in prison. She used to be a gun moll. She used to be very tight with the mob. But it takes a while for that to be revealed in the film, and I like the slowness of that reveal. It makes her somewhat ambivalent in terms of what her place in the plot, in the entire film, is going to be. And when that's revealed, there's still mysteries about her. There are still puzzling things about she lives alone, we think. Does she have any children? No. Is she married to a man? No, she was, we think, but she's such a a character without a past, and it's only alluded to gradually in the course of the film. It's like, in terms of protecting Phil, that journey is really crucial and really important, but it's also a kind of process of finding who she is, of finding who Gloria is in this film. And I think it's done really beautifully.
I love the photographs of the cats that are in frames in her apartment. I do want to back up real quick and point out, or I just want to say, I totally do not buy the beautiful Puerto Rican woman with Buck Henry, this nebbish. And what's funny is I believe that the characters are Puerto Rican in the script. So if you think about this, we could have ended up with Ricky Schroeder and Buck Henry as Puerto Ricans, which is okay, whatever. And, I interviewed Buck Henry once, and he was a really kind of sour fellow, which, I'd grown up seeing him on Saturday Night Live. I thought, on some of those episodes of the 70s, I thought he was, going to be funny. But I just don't buy them together. Not that that necessarily means anything, but it's a weird choice. And also Seymour Cassell, had begged for this role. I couldn't really see him in that role either, but I don't know. It's just, it's interesting casting, we'll say.
Well, it seems a little miscast. And I think that might be part of the Cassavetes' charm, or the Cassavetes' touch, to cast people who kind of rub against what you would assume the character to be, because there's not a lot in this film in some ways, because Gloria doesn't seem to be a typical dame. She is a dame, but the details are only revealed very, very gradually. And did this film not come right after A Woman Under the Influence? Is that right?
This one sat on the shelf at Columbia for a while, and they had some misgivings about releasing it.
This is not how one expects to see Gena Rowlands, I don't think. I know she's played a range of roles, but I think seeing her as an aging gun moll is really pretty unusual. I like that aspect of Cassavetes, that people are cast who don't seem to belong in this film, but somehow they're a part of the whole fabric of the film anyhow.
Well, maybe that's how, it is in real life, is that sometimes people in the real world, we accept them for the roles that they play in real life. But if we saw them in the movie, we wouldn't necessarily believe that. And maybe that's part of the Cassavetes trying to catch realism thing.
Yeah, I think that's right. That makes sense to me.
I will say that the casting of the gangsters is on point. And some of these guys were actual gangsters, actual mob people from New York. And I'm not sure who is and who's an actor, but my God, the faces that he uses for some of these guys. There's one guy in particular, and I bet you as soon as I say that, it comes into both of your heads. He looks a little rat-like, and he's got the longer, scraggly hair. He's there at the bar when she has them all dump their bullets out. That guy, his face is amazing. And also that bigger guy who seems to be going through the whole thing, the one who's like, I'm not Mr. Tangiers or whatever it is, Tanzini, I think it is. Yeah, I'd love him as well. And then it was great seeing, speaking of Wolfen, Tom Noonan had a very small role in that. Tom Noonan just kind of breezes through the frame at one point in this movie. I kept waiting for him to show back up again. I was like, holy shit, Tom Noonan, that's great. And talk about surprise, I didn't know that Lawrence Tierney was in this.
What's interesting, and I'm referring back to my book, here's plug, on 1970s New York films, The Taking of New York City. The most interesting bit of casting was the guy Basilio Francina, who plays Tony Tanzini. And he was a screenwriter, not an actor, who had worked with Federico Fellini and Destica.
Buck Henry, also screenwriter. This guy, a screenwriter. It feels like this is kind of Cassavetes giving back to his friends or people that he wants to work with or people that he admired their work, rather than maybe this is the perfect person. I agree with you that Tanzini is cast really well. Buck Henry, maybe not so much, though Buck Henry does look like he would be an accountant for the mob. Maybe not married to this gorgeous Puerto Rican woman, but yeah. And, maybe all the money, hopefully, he was making. But again, they're kind of living in this shithole apartment and everything. I mean, it's big, it's spacious. This is New York in the 1980s or 79 when this was shot. Again, kind of cutting this kid some slack, too. I'm thinking back, I think he's just about the same age as I am. So at that point, he would have been 7 years old. So a 7-year-old, I mean, they probably could only work with him for however hours a day. I don't know what the child labor laws were. Yeah, I can't imagine like having to put up with all the stuff to have a child as an actor, as one of the two main characters of the film.
The guy that's standing in the elevator at the beginning of the movie and it just keeps bouncing on him. I mean, is he high or what? What the heck was your take on that? Because it's really weird, but it adds to the kind of the grittiness and the just dilapidation and questionable appearance of this apartment building. And she just is like, okay, move out of the way. I got to go through here.
It's New York. I mean, these are the kind of things that happen in New York all the time. I like that a lot. But I also liked, she doesn't get all, I mean, she's scared, obviously, but she just kind of, come on, I got to get out of the elevator. Move, please. And I like that.
And apparently the only other thing that actor was in was The Warriors. He was one of the Gramercy Riffs. I don't know if he was one of the leaders, if he had a role, talking role or anything. But yeah, when I looked him up, I was like, oh, okay, another great New York as shithole type of movie.
The guy with the hair and the kind of rat face you were talking about, or whatever we'd call it. As I pictured him in my mind, I was thinking, he's kind of like a poor man's Sean Cazale, his name.
Oh, I can see that. But he has this exaggerated sense of his own sexual allure, which is hilarious. Like when they strip, he's all, I'm here, baby. I'm ready for you. He's pathetic, but in a very entertaining way.
Well, and she has no problem humiliating these men, which I really like.
And that's believable. Like, we buy her. Because, we talk about how she's not the typical gangster's mall or whatever, but she's tough. Every time she's people doing these things, I buy it.
Oh, she's very tough. I mean, as I said, I really do see this as, I don't want to call it a woman's picture because it's not really a melodrama. It's a little film with the unusual aspect that, and we've seen plenty of examples of this, but it's still unusual when it happens that the woman is the center of it rather than the crime bosses or the gangsters or anybody else. And her place in this gritty environment is totally of a piece with who she is as a character in the film. She's tough, but she also takes nothing from anybody. She is so determined to just push and make her way through the world. If you don't agree with what she's doing, that's too bad. Goodbye.
She's the best part of this movie by far. I love her, and both the actress and the character. Gena Rowlands is so good in this movie. And, we talked about her performance in this movie. One of the things that I found interesting was I had read that they had argued a lot on the set because Cassavetes had pushed her so much. And, their husband and wife, and in case anybody's listening doesn't realize that, their husband and wife in real life. But he had pushed her because he knew what she could do. And they fought a lot on the set. And one of the things, he fought with was it the producer? He fought with somebody, I was trying to remember, somebody from the studio while they were filming because he believed that they were, he just didn't get along with them because he also fired his editor on the first week of shooting because he thought they were spies from the studio. So there's so much interesting stuff there. And also she goes down from heat exhaustion because she's giving her all. She's doing these things in the movie. She goes down from heat exhaustion and he just keeps shooting. Like, he just goes around her and shoots for the rest of the day, which shows you how insanely dedicated to the film they both are.
We talk a lot about collaborations in the making of motion pictures and between actors and directors. And usually it's a male director, not always a male actor. I mean, Scorsese and Robert De Niro. But I do think that Cassavetes and Rowlands, this is one of the greatest collaborations in the history of American cinema. I don't want to be absolute about it, but I can't think of a single collaboration that works as well for the actress as for the director. So much of the time, the actress, the old cliche of the actress is just a hunk of clay that's molded by the director, etc. She's no hunk of clay. Gena Rowlands is so dominant in her take on this role. How many great collaborations between male directors and female actors do we have in the history of American cinema? I mean, this is really, I can't think of any better than this. Of course, I adore Gena Rowlands, and I like Cassavetes pretty much too.
They talk about George Cukor going back, but I think that's so different. One of the things that really works here is my guess is that because they're married, because they're in this relationship, because they know each other's everything, their deepest, darkest secrets, their brightest moments, whatever. And I think that they know exactly how to push each other's buttons, both in the arguing in real life way, but also in getting the best performance or getting the best shot for each other.
I think that's true. Also, evidently, there's quite a bit of tension in their relationship. I don't know of too many long-term relationships where there isn't some, or maybe a lot of tension here and there. But I do think the nature of the collaboration is really quite extraordinary. You know, the only one that I can think of that comes even close is Isabelle, this is French, I'm sorry, but it's Isabelle Huppert and Claude Chabrol. And now she's very different. Her way of acting is sort of like, hi, I'm a mask trying to penetrate this mask. You won't have any luck. You know, she's very cold and remote, but it works. It works in all the films they made together. But I cannot think of another as successful collaboration in the history of American cinema. I mean, it's remarkable what they were able to do with each other.
The only thing that came to my mind when we were talking about female actress, male director is Marlene Dietrich and Joseph von Sternberg. But a lot of that was, how are you shooting me? Are you able to bring out the look? They made so many good films together as well. And again, you're going back a century for that.
That's true. That's someone who's actually thought a lot about Marlene Dietrich. That should have been the first example that came to my mind. Yeah, that's true.
But as far as Americans, I mean, maybe now with some of the stuff like Rian Johnson and Natasha Lyonne, or I'm trying to think of some other actor-director relationships that we have where you're like, oh, here's the new thing. But no, we don't tend to see that too often. And yeah, I totally agree with you, Andrew, as far as they probably knew how to push each other the right way. And I was like, I got to tell this story. I got to get this out. I got to make this happen. And just that driven passion that both of them have comes through in a movie like this. Even if, you know, Andrew and I don't care for it that much, I think both of us can agree that we still see the passion.
I wish I could make you two boys love this film as much as I do.
I'll tell you, Judith, it's good when we have these kind of conversations because I will usually start to come around towards the end because it's like, okay, yep. To see it through another person's eyes, to hear what you're seeing versus what I'm seeing is very enlightening. So I really appreciate that.
Well, and again, I love her, and I think she is the film. I mean, let's be real, both the actress and the character. I think that material-wise, in some ways, his shooting style doesn't necessarily, to me, fit with what the film is supposed to be. And I wonder if some of that is, you know, there's 5 drafts of this, and some of this is studio stuff. And I wonder, even though he didn't like to give in at all, how much did he give in between script 1 and script 5? I don't know. I mean, probably not a lot, but to him, who blew things up in his mind, we know, who was very anti any kind of changes. Well, you know, it might have been a lot. And he talked about, you know, this being a commercial movie and blah, 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 and which he didn't necessarily like the idea of from the get-go. And also he saw it as this violent picture, which it is, but he wasn't wild about that in the beginning. And I'm just not completely sure that I think his directing stuff, like he was the one to direct. Even though he wrote it, he wanted to get rid of it from the beginning. He didn't want to direct it. And so to me, maybe they just don't align in that way for me, but she's amazing.
I do think that this is one of those examples, and I think this occurred with von Sternberg and Dietrich as well, where the woman pushes back. Okay, I don't like her fainting of heat exhaustion, but I see a lot of Gena Rowlands in this. Like, no, you don't go there. Don't make her a patsy. Don't let her be any kind of stereotypical, quote, feminine character. I guess the conflict between them, I don't like to romanticize conflict, but I do think the conflict between them is productive conflict. And same was true with von Sternberg and Dietrich. But Gena Rowlands is just so, I don't know how one can be not enchanted with this presence in the film. She's a dynamo, but she's also Like still waters constantly running deep, constantly having something else there that she's holding on to a little bit, and it's going to come out sooner or later. Can I say something more about film noir? I've been thinking a lot about film noir and women lately. How sad it is that film noir in so many instances went the direction of basically, if you don't know how to deal with a woman, let's just erase her from the film. Let's just make her so tangential that she doesn't have much to do except someone to have sex with or someone to be a hag. So I'm really drawn to film noir where the woman is really central. In American film noir, I think Ann Sheridan has that kind of presence, like in Nora Prentice, and I'm not going to be able to remember others. Oh, the one where her husband is being tracked by the police. It's like 1950, and at the end, they end up at the beach, and there's a statue of her. Okay, never mind, I'm blithering. I think that it's so rare in film noir to really have women be front and center, and I love seeing that. And this is probably more of a crime film and a gangster film than it is a film noir. But let's split hairs. Why not? There's plenty of film noir elements in this, although I still have a hard time seeing a color film as film noir, but that's neither here nor there. But I do think the way that she tilts everything to be read through the woman's perspective, through the woman's point of view.
I think that movie with the statue was The Unfaithful. Speaking of black and white, I was reading last night. Now, this is very interesting because I am totally in line with your thought process too, Andrew, as far as Cassavetes just hated the studios, hated the overhead, hated anybody telling him what to do, just was such a maverick and such a little headstrong guy. And they were talking about, I was reading Ray Stan's Cassavetes on Cassavetes' book, I think it was, and they were talking about how the end of this movie is actually different, or was different in Europe when they released it over there. The end scene in the cemetery, that final cemetery scene where they're reunited, that was all printed in black and white. And Cassavetes is like, oh, I really like the look of that. We're going to do this. And then the studio here in the US was like, no, we're not doing that over here. You're going to put in color. And he's like, okay. And he seemed to be all right with it. I don't know if it was the benefit of hindsight. He was like, I wasn't married to it. It was all right. It was kind of a neat experiment. Obviously, with the version we see today is the one that's all in color. But I was like, well, that sounds like it might have been an interesting thing. I don't know exactly why, but okay.
The ending of the film is a bit of a puzzler. When you shoot at an elevator, do the bullets necessarily hit the people inside? I have no clue.
I don't know, especially with that shotgun that they've got going. That just like they keep using those different guns. Like, give me the Magnum. It's like, holy shit.
Over and over again. David Grevin wrote a really nice essay on Gloria that I think I've mentioned to you, Mike. And he just reads the ending of the film is very ambivalent. We have no idea if Gloria and the kid, what's his name? Phil, if they survive. And putting it in black and white makes the distinction even more remarkable. It's like they're in some fantasy space at the end of the film. This is how we'd like to see it, and very much so. It's almost like they're in some kind of bardo space, a space beyond death. And it can let you hold on to the idea that they didn't die. I can't stand the idea of the two of them dying at the end. But I have no idea what bullets do to elevators.
When taking that a step further, and I never would have thought of this until we were talking, but the black and white could, also give the indication whether it was meant to or not. He thinks she's dead. We don't know if she's lived till the end. And what if he's just dreaming that? One thing I really would have liked to have seen at the end of this is really a small thing. But when she shows up and she gets out of the car and she's talking, I mean, we know who it's going to be, but a close-up would be nice because she's itty-bitty in the background for a long time, which also, again, could indicate, I'm reading way into that, but it could indicate that she's not really there. Pinhead size in the background.
I think that's totally on target. That part of me wants to say, of course they die at the end. Of course they die in the elevator. And another part of me wants to say, oh, let Gloria and Phil live, please.
And it's better. The idea, that makes us happy.
was this film hated so much? It was trashed.
I really think it's the little boy. I absolutely think it's the little boy. It's just his rhythm. And I feel like if he had talked less, it would have been better. And I know that's an awful thought.
Yeah, I like the kid. I thought the kid was really good. He didn't deserve a Razzie.
I think his rhythm throws him in. Because I feel like during different movies, like when she speaks, I'm like, oh my God, she is great. She deserves an Oscar nomination, which she got. But then when he speaks, I want to turn the television off.
Yeah, I mean, I agree he's a grating presence, but that's a part of the film.
Some people are grating presences. It happens. So again, there's that realism. Realism.
There is. But he also refuses to sentimentalize childhood. He refuses to make the kid be a sweet little darling that Gloria is going to, of course I want to be your mom. No, I don't want to have anything to do with you. Go away. And of course that changes in the course of the film, but still.
It's so weird that this came out the same year as like Little Miss Marker, which is somewhat similar. That the Damon Runyon story about the bookie with the little girl. It's Julie Andrews, but this is such a tradition of pairing the gruff person, whether it's a man or a woman, with the child and using the child to basically break down the defenses of the adult. But in here, it doesn't really, there's a little bit of that. Of course, she changes throughout this, but there's not a lot of loving that goes on with this. I mean, she calls him a little shit pretty often in this. And yeah, when he runs away and everything, she's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, this is real life here. Yeah, like you don't feel like these are cartoon gangsters that are after her. This is like the real deal. This is taking like a Little Miss Marker and putting it right in, downtown, the Bronx.
Yeah, that's good. I also like taking the stereotype of the grumpy old man and making it a female. I love seeing that kind of exception to the rules of how, again, it's always so sentimentalizing when an older woman, you have to find something sweet and kind and darling about her. I mean, I think she's darling, but not in the way that stereotypically older women are supposed to be presented. And yet, even though she's tough, I don't think she ever becomes a stereotype of the grumpy old woman either, or the grumpy old lady. She's someone who really has agency. I think there's so much of this film that is seen through the experiences of Gloria. And that's part of what I love about it and part of why I think it's such a woman's film.
And Tanzini, of course, tries to put her in that box. He tries to come with that stereotype. He's like, you're a woman, of course you're going to fall in love with the kid, And he's immediately like, okay, let's kill him, But he says, of course you're going to. And which, of course, is the male, blah, blah, blah. And maybe probably, especially that kind of male, where he's macho and we're out here shooting people and doing these things. And I've had sex with you before. Oh, well, she does it well.
Well, and she emasculates the men so often. I mean, the taking off of the clothes and everything, even just the taking away of their guns is basically just a complete emasculation. It's a castration type of thing right there. And then even when she gets away from them in the subway, she could just turn around and walk away. But instead she's like, you sissies, look at what I did. This woman bested you. And I'm just like, hey, tone it down. Like, you don't want to make these guys more mad. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? Go for it. And I love things like how there's the car wreck that happens and I think the taxi driver's like, oh, hey, what happened here? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, I don't want to talk about that. And just gets in the car. I'm like, wow.
Also, when she makes them take off their clothes, it's certainly emasculation, but it is desexualized. That goofy guy that we talked about with the longer hair, he tries to sexualize it by, I'm here, I'm ready, and acting as if he's jerking off. But I just love putting the woman at the center of that scene and refusing to let her be sexualized as the instigator of it. I thought that was just great.
Mm-hmm. Talking about cab drivers, I love how friendly the cab drivers are through this whole thing and just how helpful they are. I especially like the scene with Val Avery. Now, I'm a huge Columbo fan, and Val Avery was in that group, that Cassavetes, Peter Falk, Ben Gazzara, Gena Rowlands type group. and him showing up in just one scene. And then he says something to the cab driver that's completely offensive. I think he calls him a gorilla or something. And the cab driver's just like, okay, out of my cab. And I'm just like, oh yeah. And when that guy gets out of the cab, he looks like he's 7 foot tall. I'm just like, holy shit. Like, Val Avery, I hope you're smart and you don't try to mess with this guy because he will put you down. And I was really happy with that scene.
Well, his macho-ness immediately falls to the side too, because he's shocked. Like, all these people are talking to me this way. I'm supposed to be a tough guy, you know? Or in their world, I'm this tough white guy. I can't believe this. And it's hilarious. It's amazing.
So many things are turned inside out in this film. So many of the cliches and the stereotypes are turned inside.
I love the whole thing when she gets the money out of the bank and just those fuckers at the bank. Just talk about like institutionalism, just they're so suspicious of everything and just so, corporate and all that. But I love she gets that money out, like the whole like, hey, do you mind if I'm alone with my money, please? Just really, she takes no shit from anybody. And when she's got those hundreds later, she's just like, hey, you got change for 100, just keeps trying to do this. And then all the things with the cab drivers where she's like, if you stick around, I'll give you the rest of this 100 kind of thing. And just, it's so great. And again, almost always helpful with these cab drivers, and that's one thing that, the thing that Phil learns through this is how to be really a tough guy. Like he pretends that he's a tough guy, I'm the man. But when he listens to Gloria, that's when he starts to pick up on this stuff. There's the repeated lines like, him with the cab driver later on, or him with the waitress when the waitress is kind of hanging out and Gena Rowlands is like, hey, take a walk. And then they have a whole conversation, her and Phil. And then later on, the waitress comes back and he ends up the whole scene with take a walk to the waitress. It's like, it's precocious, really fucking precocious. But at the same time, it's like, yes, you're learning some lessons. You're learning from this woman who can really teach you a thing or two.
I would watch 5 more movies about her character. But I would totally love to watch her play this role in other movies. I mean, not going to get that now, obviously, but you know what I mean.
It's so indelible, that role of Gloria. I mean, it's just, the presence is so strong and it emanates so much, like in so many different directions. I'm probably being over the top a little bit in my enthusiasm for Gena Rowlands and Gloria, but I think this is just remarkable in terms of her presence in the film.
Like you said at the beginning, Judith, she's a glamorous woman. And you get to see her de-glamorize as the movie goes through, and she doesn't give a shit either. And then as the movie goes along, you get some of these close-ups, and it's just like, okay, now I'm starting to see the bags under her eyes. I'm starting to see the eye makeup run a little bit here. It's just like she's being beat down by this whole thing, but that she's going to persevere because she is.
Yep, when she's determined to do that.
Yeah, apparently Cassavetes was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to leave the kid there at the cemetery alone? No, of course she's got to come back. I can't end a movie like that. I'm like, wow, how fucking sentimental of you, John Cassavetes. That's great. And great stunts too, by the way. The thing with the car, it's such a quick thing, but I love that it's actual people in the car. At first I was like, oh, it's going to be dummies or whatever. But when you see all 4 of those gangsters in the car and the one guy's arm hangs out and it's like, oh, okay, like that. They pulled that off pretty well. I think that was one of the complaints about this film is people are saying, well, when it's supposed to go fast for the action scenes, it goes slow. And when it's supposed to be slow, it goes fast or whatever. And I'm just like, I don't see the pacing that much of a problem as far as the action versus the dialogue. But I know there is a lot of stuff in between those action scenes. Those action scenes, when they happen, are great. But yeah, they might be a little too quick.
I've never had that reaction to the film.
She keeps saying over and over that Phil can't speak English, but this is all he speaks in the whole movie. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, he has no accent whatsoever, really.
I think she also was referring to how a kid saying stuff like, I'm the man. That's not what we consider proper English. I mean, it's certainly not polite English. And part of what she's referring to is he's so uncouth. He's so rowdy and loud and obnoxious.
I'm much more a believer in the children should be seen, not heard kind of school. Like
they're all pretty uncouth. But what I do find great, we talked earlier about how the looks of the gangsters, they shot this in 79. So they're, 7 years out from The Godfather, right? And everybody's kind of, you got Michael Corleone and all these guys that are, suave, kind of just well dressed, well presented. And then these guys look like goofballs. Some of them are ugly. have looks and things that match their personalities. And so I do think that is great. It kind of touches on what you said earlier, but it's just a small thought I had.
They remind me more of like the guys from the Friends of Eddie Coyle. Just that style of gangster, like we are struggling every day to get through this kind of thing. It doesn't feel like until you get to Tanzini's house, there's where the luxury comes in. The rest of these guys all seem like more, blue collar stiffs, where this is the only thing that they have going on, possibly can as well.
Like grunts in essence.
And this is that great time of New York City where it's just still such a hellhole in places. This is like a few years north of Taxi Driver. This is like the New York of Abel Ferrara to me, where you just feel the dirt on the streets.
That's right. What year was Raging Bull? Was it 1980?
80 year.
Yeah. Seems strange to me as a point of, it's not a comparison at all, but to me, that's part of what makes this film is so unique, is that in amidst what was a kind of massive exploration of masculinity, and most of it brilliant. I think Raging Bull is fabulous, in the way that it explores what it means when somebody's trying to be a man and trying desperately to be a man. I think it's a brilliant idea to ask the question, okay, well, in amidst all of this, what's it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be an old woman trying to find her way in this particular world? And I like the journey that she undergoes. Yeah, of course, it's taking care of a kid, but it's taking care of herself, too.
I did think, we talked a minute ago about the grittiness of the city, and I did think it was interesting that I had read that Cassavetes, like one of the buildings they had gotten was a hotel where it was an actual mob hangout many, many, many years before, and it was dilapidated and it wasn't being used. So they decided they were going to use that. And I'm assuming, I don't know if that's for the Tanzini stuff. I don't know which, because I know that there was one building they used for 3 different sets, but this was a different one. But I thought what was interesting was that he comes in and the set people are in there cleaning the walls, and he comes in and goes, no. This is why we got it. It's supposed to look like shit, and just wanted to preserve that and catch
it's that. It's supposed to look as bad.
Again, but
yeah, it's like add the scum to the walls, make that paint. I love some of those shots, like when we're down a hallway and you see the peeling paint on one side, and you're just like, when was the last time this building was maintained? It feels like a half a century ago.
Oh.
Feels like those glory days of film noir. This is what we ended up with 40 years later.
Well, Judith, you have made me like this movie more. I feel like I'm going to have to go back and watch it again, damn it.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yay. And Mike?
Mission accomplished. Yes, I definitely can appreciate this a lot more. It's still tough to hear Phil's little voice, but yeah, a little bit easier than the kid in the remake, but we'll definitely talk about that in a few minutes. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back right after these brief messages.
Hello, everyone. This is Malcolm McDowell. I just want to say that this is a request to listeners of the Projection Booth podcast to become patrons of the show via patreon.com, patreon.com/projection booth. That's pretty simple. I think you can do that. It's a great show, and Mike, he provides hours of great entertainment. So now it's time to give back, my little droogies. Settle down and take a listen and have a sip of the old Moloko. And then you'll be ready for a little of the old in out, real horror show. Bye-bye.
Women got the greatest deal in the world. All they gotta do is fall in love, and some guy just takes care of them. I had chances. What the hell is this?
There's someone new in Gloria's life.
My dad was supposed to be here, lady.
Yeah?
She tried to ignore him.
Go on, go home.
I'm hungry.
She tried not to care.
This kid, he's got nobody. His whole family's dead. What the hell am I doing with you, huh? I never even liked kids.
But one look at him.
You're just a teeny little baby bug thing over there.
And she knew.
Got any aunts or uncles?
What?
She had no other choice.
What's your name?
Nikki.
I'm Gloria. What about the kid? He's under 5.
No, I'm not. I'm 7.
You should learn to keep your mouth shut.
I don't like the way you talk to me.
I got this kid. He's not my kid. I just kind of got involved with him. I mean, his whole family's dead. He's got nobody, so I get stuck with him. You listen to me, you little punk.
I'm not a baby. I'm a man.
This kid is driving me nuts.
You got pretty big feet for a girl.
What, are you trying to win me over?
Columbia Pictures and Mandalay Entertainment present
This breaks your heart. What the hell are you thinking?
You're not a mother. Sharon Stone
I could see him doing something with his life.
in the story of a boy
Gloria, do you like me?
Yeah, kid, I like you.
all alone in the world
I want my mommy. I want my puppy.
and the woman who meant the world to him.
I want to do the right thing.
Well, I tried before to tell him of the feelings I have for him in my heart. 'Cause every little thing he does is magic. Everything he does just turns me on. It's like Kid on the Tree! Even though my life before was tragic, now my love for him goes.
If you wanted me to, I could be your mother.
Gloria.
I like sleeping with you.
You're not the first guy to tell me that.
All right, we are back and we are talking about Gloria. And as I say, any good movie deserves a really bad remake. So here we are in 1999, one of the, if not the last film from Sidney Lumet and Sharon Stone coming back as Gloria. And I have to say, I really like Sharon Stone. I really appreciate her. I feel like she's really gotten the shit end of the stick quite a bit when it comes to her experience in Hollywood. Now, some of that might be the fault of the people around her. Some of it might be her. She's the one that signed the contract for Sliver, and Sliver is one of my least favorite movies of all time. But Gloria might be in the running. Holy shit, was this movie bad?
It's awful. I couldn't watch the whole thing.
I couldn't watch the whole thing either. So I don't know, Andrew, if you made it through the whole thing or not, but I couldn't do it.
I watched the whole thing, but it's crap.
I really love Sharon Stone. Actually, I think she's pretty great. And yes, it disturbs me how she was treated in Hollywood. But in this, I have a standard for, not that I'm a great judge of whether someone is a bad actor or not, but my judgment bar for bad acting. And I thought of this as soon as I started watching, well, as soon as she appeared in the remake. Never Showgirls. That I know a lot of people think it's the end all and be all. How? I don't know. But I really disliked Showgirls. And I even went to see it because I thought it sounded so intriguing. I even went to see it on opening day. So it was me and all the raincoats in the movie theater. But when Elizabeth Berkley is asked where she's from, she gets frustrated and she says, different places. That to me is the ultimate statement of bad acting. Different places. And that's what I wanted to scream at Sharon Stone in this remake of Gloria.
The accent does not help.
No, it does not.
It comes and goes. It gets thicker in places. She doesn't pull it off particularly well. And I feel like that does her a disservice because you go back and she's so good in Casino. Like, so good. I think Lumet was just not firing on all cylinders. We know that by the end of his career. And you're going to have an accent. I think that was a terrible idea.
Whose idea was it to remake Gloria? It makes no sense to me. Was this something she wanted to do, Sharon Stone?
I wish I knew where it came from.
I don't know either, but it's really, and I do not understand. A different person got screen credit for this screenplay, and I can't remember the name, but it's not John Cassavetes.
Yeah, it was, Steve Antin, who I think he'd done one of those movies that came out. I believe he's an actor and then a writer. Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Inside Monkey Zetterland. So the 1992 film, he wrote that one. He did not direct that one. But yeah, and then he wrote this one as well. Yeah, his filmography is pretty spotty. I haven't seen Inside Monkey Zetterland, and I remember hearing a lot about it because it was during that indie boom. But I have to say, Andrew, I hope you don't chafe when I say this, but this feels like Gloria in a very post-Tarantino world. So you get those things like the gangsters in the car and the guys talking all about the fucking pigeon. And I'm like, oh boy, we are so post Tarantino right now. We're going to have these guys have a funny conversation. And it's not even that informative.
It's got this real superficial New Jack City look to it, too.
It's just stupid. And the role of Gloria is like this insipid jerk in this film. I mean, there's nothing about her that comes even close to Gena Rowlands in the original Gloria. I just don't get this film.
And of course, they sexualize her immediately. Like, this is because, if Sharon Stone's in it, they're going to think, we got to make her money. We've got to insert these shots of, I don't know. It's just a weird and bad idea.
It is. Yeah. A weird, awful idea.
To have her leave prison in a cocktail dress. I mean, this movie starts very different. We have a lot of setup. She doesn't even meet the Phil character until about half an hour in. So it's like the end of the first act. And yeah, to have her in that cocktail dress when she leaves prison, she goes over and visits her former mob boyfriend. Her mob boyfriend asks her, do you want to make love? And I just said, who the hell wrote this thing? That sounds like a real gangster line.
Exactly. I know, it's terrible. It's like it wants to imitate Gloria, but its idea of imitating it is to be as thick-headed as possible. Like, okay, Gloria alludes to having been in prison. Oh, well, let's show that. Let's show that at the beginning of the film. That'll give her backstory. No, it doesn't. It just makes the film more stupid than it already, well, it's the beginning of the film, but it predicts the stupidity of the entire film.
You know what drove me crazy here is when we start out in the apartment, or when we get to the apartment, and he's got the disc, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I swear, was it Mike Starr that was coming down the hallway? It was okay. And of course, generic white thug guy, anything in the 90s, you had Mike Starr. Okay, so Mike Starr's walking down the hallway. We see him. He's looking at the people. I swear to God, it takes him 20 minutes to get down that hallway. The guy runs in, and it's, what's his name? I forget. The Italian guy with the eyebrows. What's his name? That is the dad.
Bobby Cannavale.
I love that guy, even though he doesn't have a lot of dimension as an actor. I really do like him, but in other things, not this. But anyway, so he goes in the room. He's telling the kid, I swear to God, instead of just saying, go out the window, he's talking to him forever. He doesn't call in the daughter. He doesn't just let the daughter die. Because it's not like the other one where the daughter goes, no, I don't want to talk to you, and goes in the other room. No, in this one, he doesn't even think to try to save the daughter. Like, he's just like, you're the man, forget your sister.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I really like him a lot too. I was surprised to see him show up in this and just be so young, but it's odd how often I see him. Like, I just watched Motherless Brooklyn and I had no idea he was in it. And here he is, such a guy. And of course he gets killed. I think his casting, now they've definitely have raised the income for Phil's family in this one. They're living in a much nicer place. And Cannavale fits with that and his outfit and everything. He's got, I think it might even have suspenders on. He looks almost like a young corporate type guy. That makes more sense as far as him being this accountant or something. And then, yeah, we have to move it from a book to a disc.
His speech goes forever to the liquid. And like, we're still imagining that Mike Starr's walking up the hallway forever. I mean, then he starts banging on it. But even when he's banging on the door and it's now emergency time, he's still talking to the kid. Like, push him the hell out the window and go back. I don't know. It's just a dumb scene.
No, yeah, it's just poorly done on every score.
It's like she goes in and meets with her former boyfriend, gets an outfit change, and it's even a skimpier outfit. Like, now her cleavage is covered, but her legs are completely on display. And I'm just like, Gena Rowlands was glamorous. Sharon Stone can be glamorous, but in this, it's like she's this weird glamour queen walking around in this world of mobsters. And it's like, this doesn't fit at all. You're just not a real person. Yeah. It's like every outfit they put her in is more and more revealing.
No, she looks tacky. She does.
You know what always gets me in these movies is how they have people running around in heels like forever. My wife always points this out. I don't wear heels, but she'll always point it out to me. How the hell did they run this far in heels doing all this?
It's ridiculous.
But it's always in these movies, and I always think that's kind of interesting, too.
I really can't say anything redemptive about the remake, other than it's nice looking at Sharon Stone, but I'd much rather see Gena Rowlands and somebody who can actually give a really good performance. I feel like if there was a performance there, they just gutted it. And yeah, that freaking accent. Holy cow.
I find it cringy to watch anything. I mean, it's just awful. I insisted we fast forwarded to be able to see the ending because I knew there wasn't going to be anything ambivalent in the ending of this. And of course there isn't. But it's just one ridiculous scene after another.
Okay, I rewatched this Friday, and I'd never seen it all the way through, but I rewatched it Friday for this, and I already don't remember much about it beyond what we talked about.
Well, it's that kind of movie. It's just terrible.
I did notice that they changed the boy's age by a year, and I thought, why do you even have to do that? It didn't change his name. Was it Jack or something? I can't remember. It's no longer Phil. It actually sounds like a name could be a little boy, and I think he talks a little less.
I think he does too, which is, appreciated, definitely.
I find something sacrilegious about this remake. Leave Gena Rowlands alone. To me, I know you don't agree, but that's okay. To me, this is a perfect film, Gloria. I think this is such a masterpiece. It just insults everything about the film to make a remake. I mean, I guess a remake could be good, but I'm not imagining it, and this ain't it, for sure.
No, I mean, have they ever done a remake of a Cassavetes film that is actually successful? They haven't done that many remakes, thank God. I know they've done little tributes and stuff. There was a short film of A Woman Under the Influence in 2017. There was a movie called Before Opening Night that was done in 2010. I'm curious about that one a little bit because that was a Spanish film. It might be Chilean? No, Argentinian. That's what it is. He was such a specific flavor, and the way he made movies was so revolutionary at the time. I mean, he is so the symbol to me of new American cinema, and yet he usually gets footnoted. Like, they will concentrate on your Lucases and your Spielbergs and your De Palmas, but they will take Cassavetes and just like, oh yeah, and this other guy was doing this thing too. You knew why? Because it's challenging. It's very challenging to watch his films, and I appreciate that about him.
Yeah, I think he's one of the people whose films should never, ever be remade. Some films are unremakeable, and they ought to be. Leave them alone. Now,
I did find this little write-up, little review. You guys said something that made me think about it, and this is of the original, but this was from one of Ray Carney's books. It was a different one. It was from American Dreaming, the films of John Cassavetes and the American Experience. And this is obviously for the Cassavetes one, but I thought this kind of summed it up. He said, caught halfway between a Warner Brothers thriller and a Disney fairy tale, Gloria will probably satisfy neither children nor adults, but it could never be confused with the work of any other director. And I thought that was kind of
that's a good point. So true.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the right name. I think I called him Ray Stanton before. I don't know. It was
What's interesting is on that book, he's credited as Raymond Carney, even though on the Cassavetes on Cassavetes, he's not that. I'm Andy Rausch on half of my book, so what the hell do I?
Yeah, I tried to get a hold of him for this because he seemed like such the expert on Cassavetes, but unfortunately never got a response. Yeah, I had a pretty old website out there, not a GeoCities, but it was around that era of websites. I was like, all right, this hasn't been updated for a while, has it?
One little thing I wanted to throw in there, Lynn, I never did, but it's right before that ending. And I wanted to say, I don't buy the 6-year-old going up and buying a ticket at the train and no one says anything about it. You think that they would sell a ticket to a 6-year-old to go to another town, another city?
Yeah, I think my first question would be, where's your mom and dad? Because he feels like a runaway. He is a runaway at that point. All right, let's go ahead and take another break and play a preview for next week's show right after these brief messages.
England needs an heir. Let the dynasty die with Henry VIII and we'll have dynastic wars again. Is that what you want?
Our king has declared war on the Pope because the Pope will not declare that our queen is not his wife.
I have no queen!
Son after son she's borne me, all dead at birth.
Never saw the hand of God so clear in anything.
This English church will first divorce him from the Queen, then marry him to Lady Anne.
The King wants Sir Thomas to bless his marriage.
I will not take the oath. I will not tell you why I will not.
I might get it out of you in other ways.
No one is safe, Howard.
There is among us a brood of discreet traitors.
It's my bounden duty to put away the Queen, and all the Pope's back to Peter shall not come between me and my duty.
You and I are enemies.
Your life lies in your own hands, Thomas, as it always has.
Death comes for us all, even for kings he comes.
That's right. We'll be back next week with something very different. We're going to be looking at A Man for All Seasons, an appropriate episode for winter, spring, summer, or fall. Until then, I want to thank my co-hosts, Andrew and Judith. So, Judith, what's been keeping you busy?
Well, I've been working on this book for a long time, and I do have a great title, I think, French Film Noir in the Occupied Zone. It's about French film noir during World War II. And as you both know, most people do not understand that the French invented film noir as much as any American director ever did, probably more so. And I've seen lots of films, and I have been in touch with this great guy named Don Malcolm. And he ran for 10 years a series in San Francisco every year. And he has excavated all of these film noirs from the 30s up until almost present day. And he's a great curator. And so I've really learned a lot from his work and excited about talking about French film noir.
And Andy, how about yourself?
So I have an unbelievable 4 projects coming out or right out, and I apologize for the quick little throw in here, but okay, I just had a book out. We talked about the taking of New York City, crime on the screen and in the streets of the Big Apple in the 1970s. That is from Applause, and it covers 50 movies. I had a book that just came out that I edited with Kieran Fisher. That's from McFarlane, called The Cinema of Quentin Tarantino. It's a collection of essays. It took 5 years to get that book from start to finish, so I am glad to be done. That comes out in a month. I have a book in July about the generation of 90s filmmakers. You'll love this. The title of it is Generation Tarantino, The Last Wave of Young Turks in Hollywood. Covers all of the people you would think it would cover. And the last one, The Life and Art of Gary Graver, which I co-wrote with Dave Wayne and Maddie Budrowitz. We meet these people online. We don't meet them, so I'm probably butchering his name, but that comes out from Bear Manor. Gary Graver, of course, was a director of many movies, including adult films, and he was a cameraman for everyone from Orson Welles to, drumroll, John Cassavetes. Sounds good. I'm so burned out now that I may have nothing else coming.
I was going to say, take a break, bud.
Judith, when your book comes out, I definitely want to talk to you about that. And if you've got any titles that you'd recommend in the meantime, please shoot them on over. I'd love to check some out.
The problem with some of these films is that they are hard to find because a number of them are available on DVD. They didn't used to be in France, but they're harder to get in the United States. But I'm thrilled every time I see the Criterion Channel do one of these occupation films because they're not easy to find. And I always recommend Le Corbeau, because we did an episode of Projection Booth on that. And to me, it's still my number one favorite film.
Thank you so much, folks, for being on the show. Thanks to everybody for listening. If you want to hear more of me shooting off my mouth, check out some of the other shows that I work on. They are all available at weirdingwaymedia.com. Thanks especially to our Patreon community. If you want to join the community, visit patreon.com/projectionbooth. Every donation we get helps the Projection Booth take over the world.